On the day of his grand birthday feast, King Herod Antipas, the son of Herod the Great, who had once rebuilt the magnificent temple in Jerusalem, prepared his palace for celebration, a hall lit by torches and filled with the smell of roasted meat, wine, and music. Yet behind the curtains lay an unspoken tension, for in the prison beneath the fortress sat a man who had shaken the entire region with his words. John the Baptist, wild prophet of the desert, clothed in camel's hair and sustained on locusts and honey, who had called people to repent, to prepare for the coming of the Messiah, and who dared to stand before Herod and condemn his marriage to Herodias, the wife of his own brother, a union considered unlawful under Jewish law. And though Herod feared John, recognizing in him a holiness beyond politics, he had bound him in chains to silence the voice that threatened his throne, while Herodias, proud and cunning, seethed with a hatred that grew each day. John's words echoed among the people. So when the feast began, and guests reclined on couches draped in silks, with goblets raised and dancers moving to the sound of drums and lutes, Herod sought a final act of entertainment, and into the hall stepped Salome, daughter of Herodias, clothed in flowing garments, her face youthful and radiant, her movements elegant and intoxicating. A dance that blended innocence with allure, and as the music swelled, Herod's eyes followed her with desire, the crowd erupting in applause until, overcome with intoxication and pride, the king declared before all present, "Ask me for whatever you wish, and I will give it to you, even up to half of my kingdom." A promise rashly spoken, a vow made in the heat of the moment, but sealed by the weight of witnesses. And Salome, instructed by her mother, who leaned in with a whisper sharp as a blade, returned not with the request of jewels or land or power, but with words that silenced the hall. "I want the head of John the Baptist, here and now, on a platter." And at once the laughter turned to gasps, the king's face drained of color, for though he did not wish to kill John, though his conscience recoiled, his pride as ruler and his fear of shame before his nobles bound him tighter than chains. And with a heavy heart he gave the order, and down in the darkness of the prison a soldier drew his sword, ending the life of the man who had baptized multitudes in the Jordan, the voice crying in the wilderness, now silenced. And soon the head of the prophet, eyes closed, hair matted, was carried on a dish into the golden light of the banquet hall, placed in the hands of the girl who delivered it to her mother. And in that moment, Herodias smiled, vengeance fulfilled, her enemy destroyed, while the king sat in silence, haunted by the oath he could not unspeak. Yet the story did not end in that room, for to the followers of Christ, John became a martyr, a man who spoke truth to power, even at the cost of his life. His death a warning of the dangers of pride, lust, and manipulation. And in the centuries that followed, artists could not look away from the haunting image. Painters of the Renaissance and Baroque, like Caravaggio and Guido Reni, captured the unsettling contrast of Salome's youthful calm and the grisly prize she carried. Poets and dramatists reimagined her role, and by the 19th century, writers like Oscar Wilde transformed Salome into a symbol of dangerous female allure, the femme fatale whose beauty brought destruction, inspiring Strauss to compose his scandalous opera, where her dance became not obedience to her mother, but an act of twisted desire. And across Europe, canvases and stages displayed again and again the tableau of innocence paired with horror, an image both sacred and profane, until Salome herself became less a girl in history and more an archetype of fatal beauty. And yet beneath these shifting interpretations lies the enduring question of John's sacrifice. For his head upon the platter is not merely a relic of cruelty, but a mirror held up to every generation, forcing rulers, artists, and audiences alike to confront the eternal struggle between truth and power, between conscience and pride, between the fleeting pleasures of a banquet and the lasting voice of a prophet who dared to stand against corruption. And so the single night in Herod's palace, with its music and its dance and its fateful promise, reverberates through time as one of history's most haunting stories, a story of how a king's weakness, a queen's hatred, and a girl's obedience ended a life, but began a legend that no feast, no sword, and no silence could ever truly erase.